Welcome to our big focus story at this point of time. Well, scandalous, suspicious and spooky. We are talking about 3 Russian citizens that have died in the state of Odisha within a period of 2 weeks. 3 cases of mysterious deaths. Is there a sinister plan or is it sheer coincidence? That's the question we are raising. Let's tell you what happened. Russian national who worked as a crew member on board a ship was found dead in Odisha's Paradip port today, as per Paradip police. Now, this is the 3rd death, as I mentioned, of a Russian national in the state in the past 15 days. Officers have identified the deceased in this case as Sergei Milyakov, 50 years of age, said he died of a suspected heart attack. Full details are yet to be known. The latest incident has been reported just a little over a week after 2 unnatural deaths of Russian citizens took place, again in Odisha, but in another district of Rayagada. One was the death of so-called sausage tycoon, who was also a lawmaker, Pavel Antov, on the 24th of December, and his friend, Vladimir Bidanov, on the 22nd of December at Hotel Sai International in Rayagada district, where they were staying. Apparently, they were visiting as tourists. The crime branch is currently inquiring into all the incidents. According to official sources, the latest case of Milyakov was that of a member of a crew on the vessel MV Aldana, which has been engaged by an Indian steel manufacturer in the coastal shipping by the port authorities. Now, port authorities also claim that at around 4 a.m., the captain of the ship sent a message to the port security about the death of a crew member. As per standard operating procedure, the port health officer then visited the vessel and confirmed the death, adding that the police will give further details. The vessel had a total of 23 crew members, including a few Indians as well. So just to put the facts and the figures on our screens, out of the 3 deaths, the first one was of Vladimir Bidanov, 62 years of age. He died on the 22nd of December in Rayagada, suffered a fatal heart attack, was the close aide of Pavel Antov, who happens to be a critic of Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, who also criticized the Russian war on Ukraine. The second death of Pavel Antov, 65 years of age, died on 24th of December, just 2 days after the death of his close aide. He was found lying in a pool of blood on the adjacent terrace to the hotel where he was staying in Rayagada of Odisha. He died of internal injury as per police reports after a fall. Now, he, of course, is a business tycoon and also a politician. He was one of the leading manufacturers of meat sausages in Russia, founder of the meat company called Vladimir Standard. Since 2018, he's been a member of the regional parliament as well, ranked among the richest of all parliamentarians and senior officials in the country by the Russian edition of Forbes magazine. So he was an influential person who died under mysterious circumstances in Odisha. And the latest, like I mentioned, Sergei Milyakov, 50 years of age, found dead in Odisha's Paradip port area, again died of a suspected heart attack, though full details are yet to be accessed. A Russian national who worked on board a ship, vessel MV Aldana. It was engaged by an Indian steel manufacturer in coastal shipping. My colleague Srinjoy has more details on this latest case. Srinjoy, I spoke to you earlier about this and it seemed we do not have the full details about what happened to the 3rd Russian national reported dead near Paradip earlier this morning.
He was only 51 years old. And what the police are saying that yes, this could be a suspected heart attack. The PM is yet to be done, the post-mortem. And once it's done, we will know exactly what happened. But he was not a politician. He was no friend of all those people. He was an engineer and a ship's engineer, and why he has suddenly died is of course not known. We will know more after the post-mortem. But what we are hearing is that this is a very curious case.
Yes.
Here are 3 between 50 and 65, and all of them are dying within days or weeks of each other in, of all places, Odisha. Now that's very curious. There may be something more in it. There may not be something more in it. But the fact that 3 Russians have suddenly died in Odisha, of all places, in a space of about 10 days, is really something that raises eyebrows. Of course, we hear that one had a heart attack, the first. Then, of course, Antev was so upset by it that he sort of committed suicide. The third is a heart attack. But then
Yes.
again, we don't know exactly if it's heart attack or not. We will have to wait for the postmortem and then we'll know for sure.
Yes. Yes, we don't know. Thanks, Srinjoy, for joining us. We don't know whether there is foul play involved, but the fact is, for 3 Russian nationals to die within 2 weeks and all in the same place. Let me welcome our panelists joining us here this evening. Ashok Pradhan, senior journalist, Times of India, joining us from Odisha. Sharda Prasad, former director, NICFS, that is the National Institute of Criminology and Forensic Science, Government of India, joining us from our Noida studios. Very good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us here. I would first like to go to you, Mr. Ashok Pradhan. Since you are joining us from Odisha, you would have perhaps a better idea of what could have happened. 3 incidents within a span of 2 weeks, all Russian nationals. What are you reading into this, Mr. Pradhan?
See, it may or may not be because of some crime. These may be mere coincidences. It's too early to actually figure out what exactly happened.
Okay.
But the fact that these happened within days of each other. First death, suspected heart attack. Then another gentleman falls up from the hotel window. And the third death happening in a ship. All Russian nationals. In all cases, police is saying, so far there is nothing to suggest any criminality. That is so far.
Okay.
But the investigation is on. Hotel staffs are being questioned in the first 2 cases. A Russian couple who accompanied the first 2 deceased, they were questioned, but they were let off. Police said their photos and video recording of the have been over. So it's too early to say actually what exactly has happened. But it certainly raises more questions than it answers.
Yes, raises more questions than answers. Sharda Prasad, pardon me if I'm being preposterous about this, but the case of Pavel Antov, it doesn't add up. I mean, how can a person fall off into an adjoining terrace and then die? That doesn't, the circumstances in the case of Mr. Antov, again, out of the 3, he is the most powerful and the most influential person. His close aide dies 2 days before, and then he is found dead in a pool of blood. Apparently just fell off from the terrace, from his terrace to the adjoining terrace. Is there anything that you find amiss in this narrative?
You see, you're right. In fact, it is not that easy to explain the successive incidents which have occurred one after another. The first one also, I would say, that's not a pure and simple heart attack, because it's a well-known fact there that the person was drinking heavily. Now, whether he was drinking heavily on his own or whether someone was really ensuring that he takes his drinks, creates circumstances in which he takes a drink. So, because along with the drink, it's possible that something can be given which will lead to whatever symptoms have come. So, it was a natural death, no doubt. It is not a natural death. The first case, that's on 22nd. Then on 24th, it's a very intriguing, is it just not possible. The way it has happened, that somebody is sad from his friend's death, so the fellow takes a jump. And that's after 2 days.
Yes.
And what has been found, perhaps, that his behavior or conduct in these 2 days was not that very normal. That's what appears. And but taking the fall, whether he fell himself or there was someone else, or whether he was under some drugs or something, that would have come out had there been analysis of viscera. If they have kept it and they have sent it, I think that will come out in due course of time.
Yes.
But then there is another issue. You see, on the basis of religion, what I understand that they are Christians.
Okay.
And in Christians, normally they would have had a cremation, a burial. Now here, I understand that both of them were cremated. That looks quite odd.
Yes.
Plus the handling of the whole thing, you see, the police manuals of the state police, they tell in detail how to handle a foreigner's death. And in this case, perhaps they have not even taken that much precaution which they should have taken in a normal unnatural death case. So there is lots of issues to be explained.
issues, and if I may
and
just
they say
add,
that body
yes.
was not sent for certain special.
Yes, that
Yes.
part, of course, the way it was cremated,
they could have
the way
sent
it
the
was,
body.
cremated in a tearing hurry, Mr. Prasad. But what, Mr. Pradhan? But sorry, I think I'm addressing Mr. Prasad here. I want to ask you as well, Mr. Sharad Prasad, that two other things I'll add to what you just said. That fact that they were in Odisha as tourists to a location which is not really a tourist destination. Secondly, and you would know better, that
right,
there are, instances of Putin critics, Putin rivals being found, the attempts to eliminate them. We know the poisoning case that happened. So because of that baggage again, because of that track record again, this has become highly suspicious. Do you concede?
You see, you're right. In fact, not from today. There have been incidents of such, you can say, pricking of pins and other things from dissidents, and there have been deaths reported earlier. Even not even last 10 years or so. I know cases of more than 20 years back also. This is what has been done to those who are dissidents. So, but in this case, whether it happened or not, it's only a matter of conjecture. But then it's a suspicious, no doubt. And they should have at least the gentleman who was the millionaire or billionaire, whatever you say. I don't know why his dead body also didn't go back to his place. After all, he was important and influential person, and I think he is a political leader. And his dead body also was cremated here only. It didn't go. So it raises issues.
Yes.
And I think some detailed investigation is required on that.
Yes. Ashok Pradhan, the third case we can understand, here is a man on business. He's on a ship that is commissioned for a certain purpose, and okay, fine, we can still understand that there could be a case of a heart attack, a natural death. But in the case of Mr. Antov, again, I want to ask you, why do you think he was there, a wealthy businessman, a business tycoon with high political connections? Why was he there in Rayagada, according to you, for in the first place? And why was his body cremated in the manner? What is the official version on it, Mr. Pradhan?
Yeah, that again is very curious, why he was in Rayagada at the first place. That's not a beaten track where many foreign tourists should go.
Yes.
So some tourists, very few tourists come to Rayagada, Kandhamal and all those tribal regions to learn more about the life and lifestyle of primitive tribal groups, particularly tribal groups. So maybe he had come on that to explore tribal lives. But interestingly, from among the first two deaths, in case of Pavel Antov's death, who is more influential, no photography or videography of the postmortem was done, though it was done in the first case. No viscera was kept in the second case, Pavel's case, though it was kept in the case of his friend. So that raises again more questions why police did not do it. The police are saying that there is no hard and fast thing, to do. Police manual doesn't say that videography or photography is a must. But in one case it was done. In the first case it was done, but it was not done in the second case. Why? So that's why it raises further more questions, and it, it raises questions about the investigation. Why initial investigations at least?
Yes. If you just go by the preliminary information, if you go by prima facie, what the police tells us is he could have been inebriated and he fell off, and he fell to his death. It sounds bizarre, absolutely bizarre, and for more ways than one, as we now discussed. Mr. Sharda Prasad, how do things go from here? Who is to be questioned for the kind of anomalies that three of us just discussed?
You see, I presume that by now the forensic experts must have already examined the place, and they must have already collected the samples. Like when the fellow jumped from there or fell down, obviously what about his shoes or slippers or whatever, what sort of clothes he was putting on, what was left behind and all that will be able to explain things. So this is one area, forensic investigation. And second, of course, the questioning of the hotel staff and the friends. I think friends have been already released. So I think their questioning cannot take place anymore.
Okay.
But somewhere some investigation has to be done to find out the background of things. As Mr. Pradhan has said, that how
Yes.
come they happen to be there on their birthday time at such a odd place.
Yes.
So all that has to be explained.
All that has to be explained. More questions than answers at this point. Mr. Ashok Pradhan and Mr. Sharda Prasad, thank you so much for joining us here on the program this evening.
Thank you.